Oh my God, take two. Okay, yeah, so sorry for the delay. We had a bit of technical difficulties, but welcome to a very spooky, scary Scouching Live. You'll notice I'm very tiny today. There's a reason. We'll get into that in a second. But first, I'm joined by my producer, AJ Jadaro. How are you today, sir?
Not good. Not good.
Not
Big
good, eh?
sad.
I can only imagine why that might be, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Hey.
Today we're gonna have some fun. It's gonna be a good time this afternoon. Obviously, happy Halloween, happy Spooktober. It's October 31st, 2024. This would be my 25th Halloween. It's been a long time since my first trick or treating, where I went as the Yellow Power Ranger from the original
25th.
series. Yeah, because I was born in July. My first one, I was 0. So this is my 35th. Oh my God, 35.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is my 35th Halloween. My bad. For a second I thought I was you.
That would still be too many.
I guess so, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, what we're going to do today to celebrate Halloween, we're obviously going to take your questions. We got some conversation topics we want to go over while people file in as well. We can work on that. But yeah, what we're going to do, because I have children coming to the door in maybe 3 hours from now, is we're going to carve some pumpkins. There you go.
Oh.
So 2 big boys. I don't know if you can see them in the camera feed. Oh yeah, there they are. So
yes, you can.
They look huge relative to me, but they're not that big, I swear. Discount bin at Sobeys. You know how it goes. That's the way she is. But yeah,
for this discount stream setup that we've got going here.
Yes, yeah, but I did put fancy lights up and changed the color of the lights here. So there's that. So that you can't take that away from me.
Fair enough.
I've got a bowl full of knives here as well. Be safe, kids. And because I'm an adult, I got the candy all set up. And I get first dibs. So here's a big bowl of junk food that maybe we pick at later, but I'm not always the biggest fan of all this stuff. There's some stuff in here that I haven't seen since I was a young boy, like Airheads. I don't know who eats Airheads anymore, but Costco had them.
Will went to the bargain bin and just, what's the cheapest stuff I can buy so I don't look like a D-bag when the kids show up to my house asking for candy.
It was a club pack of whatever they had lying around, probably. So
the unwanted selection is what you got.
Exactly. Yeah, I did also get some of the classics. There's chocolatey stuff floating around in there, but we'll get to that eventually. I guess while people are filing in, though, we can do spoiler alerts for our favorite television program, Survivor, last night. Another, in my opinion, excellent episode with an extremely dumb twist in it. And while we talk about that, I'm going to get this bad boy out again. Be careful with your knives, children, if there are any children watching.
Oh, man.
Oh, and my microphone just popped out of its stand.
See what I mean? Discount stream setup. Ladies and gentlemen,
we're cursed, but that's okay.
I'm cursed. Knowing
when you mentioned earlier before the stream, AJ was saying he's unable to draw straight lines even on a pumpkin, and I see what he means because he said his hands shake, and so that's probably because I'm live on the internet, but my hands are shaking as well. But luckily, the camera is not shaking because this whole table is shaking.
This is awesome to watch. I don't know how long we're gonna be able to have this going and be super entertaining, but it is pretty funny to watch you carve.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. But anyway,
I do feel like we can get into the Survivor talk after, just because
we can do that.
You know, that's when we really run out of things to say, right? And then go into the chat questions. So I think
that's true.
Why don't we address the elephant in the room? And my boy has been traded.
Why you're depressed today on Halloween, a day that anybody shouldn't be, any hockey fan shouldn't be in the dumps. But yes, so Timothy Liljegren traded. Obviously, I am sad too. I have a jersey with his name on it. Now, I am going to look like a doofus, but that's not the first time.
You might be looking like a doofus right now, my good friend.
Oh, I know I look like a doofus right now. That's the whole point. It's Halloween, dog. Everybody looks like a doofus today. Actually, last time I went dressed up in a Halloween costume, I was dressed up as Ralph Wiggum with a flute up his nose, which was a lot of fun.
And when did you do that?
I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. I'm not one for costumes nowadays, but that was a little while back. And yeah, Ralph Wiggum was
I
a good
haven't
one.
dressed up, I think, in 11 years.
Wow.
Maybe not 11.
Well, yeah.
More like 10, but still.
Yeah, so yeah, Timothy Liljegren gone to the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, that's bad for the brand, but good for Timothy Liljegren, I think. What are your initial thoughts while I finish my circle here?
Well, I think the Leafs are stupid for trading him. I don't understand why he couldn't fit in the roster. He was the third best defenseman on the team, and yeah, does he play that physical brand of hockey? No, but he doesn't have to. What he's really good at is just the subtle things, stopping zone entries, just disrupting play in a way that's not the most detectable, but if you watch for it, you'll see it. Like, he'll stop guys up in a way that's not actual body interference, but he's kind of interfering with their ability to get into the offensive zone when they dump pucks. And then his D partner goes and picks up the puck, and then they start a breakout. Like, that's the Timothy Liljegren brand. And I think in San Jose, he's going to have a lot more opportunity to really rip that thing, because the puck that is, because that's one of his big strengths. And I haven't seen him do that in so many years, it feels like.
Yeah.
He has a lot of talent, and they didn't utilize him in a way that I thought was advantageous to him, and he still had great numbers.
It just, to me, it's like, this is like such Leaf stuff from when I was a kid. Like, take a good young player who you're underutilizing in favor of older players who are quote unquote more established and whatever adjective you want to use. And then they go somewhere else and play quite well. The name that always jumps to my mind for that is Anton Strawman, who they traded for Wayne, with other stuff, I believe, for Wayne Primo.
I loved Anton Strawman.
Yep, and Anton Strawman went on to have an excellent career, and I think they traded him around the same age as Timothy Liljegren. Liljegren's 25, turning 26, I think. So he's still pretty early in his career for a defenseman, I would say. And he's going to play big minutes in San Jose. I mean, and for me, like, credit to Mike Greer, because getting him and Jake Wallman, especially considering the condition the Red Wings are currently in, my goodness.
That's their top pair now. And
that may very well be it, yeah.
If they're lucky, that'll be their second pair when they're actually, like, contending, potentially.
Right, with Sam Dickinson on the top pair or something. And so we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Look, all things considered, for a guy that is getting paid $3 million and the Toronto Maple Leafs were benching and putting in the press box this season, getting at least a third-round pick out of it, I guess, is acceptable.
No, but it's not acceptable.
I don't think at the end of the day it is. And I don't know what they're expecting out of Matt Benning, but I think Leaf fans should probably not expect much at all.
I don't think they're expecting anything. I think all this was a cap dump where they got a third and a sixth round pick with what? Analytically the worst defenseman in the league, or one of them?
One of them, yeah.
At least in the past couple of years, that is. But, like, I don't get it, man. I want to put my head through a wall. It's just frustrating.
Well, I mean, let's flip the script, though. Like, what is San Jose getting? Like, I've watched him since he was 16 years old, so I pretty much know. But, like, you've watched way more of the Leafs than I have over the last couple of seasons. I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier.
Yep.
But, like, what is San Jose getting? And, like, why do you think he's a top pair guy for them right now?
Well, top pair guy for them right now. I think he's...
Right, yeah, that's what I mean. Right?
I think he slots in more as a number 3, number 4 defenseman. And I think there's a lot more offense, as I said earlier, to unlock. He has a killer shot, and he's going to be good on, like, the second power play unit, because Jake Wallman's been doing a pretty good job on the first. So they may not want to rock the boat there. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe Jake Wallman is a left-hand D. Liljegren's a right-hand D, so that's a good pair. Like, you got your left and your right guy. And you're just going to get somebody who's super solid. He's not going to wow you with his physicality. He's not going to wow you with the big plays he makes in the defensive zone. It's all about prevent. That's what Timothy Liljegren's about.
Well, he plays the style of defense that people don't notice, but is probably just as, if not more effective than the style of defense that people notice. Like, his analytics, I know analytics, but they're very good for a reason. Like, he just goes out and plays effective hockey. I think that in the playoffs this past season, he was a little bit outmatched, and I think he kind of, had a few shaky moments here and there, but like on the Leaf team in the playoffs last year, who didn't. And I feel like, it's just, he's a really effective defenseman who just keeps it simple, who used to be, when he was a kid, like super dynamic, offensive, creative guy. And then I think he got mono in his draft year.
He did.
And everything kind of slowed down pretty quickly for him, and that sucks. And Toronto kind of turned him into this like guy in a way, like a good one. And so for San Jose fans or whatever, like, you're getting a player who can play, and a player who probably is going to be worth the money that they're paying him. For the next,
absolutely.
I believe, two years, right? It's a 2-year deal. So he's got a bit of term.
You have a player that can defend now. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, right.
And it cost you almost nothing.
There. He's okay.
Well, that's true, but it cost them almost nothing to get it. So it's like
basically cost them nothing, right? Like, San Jose doesn't need more draft picks. Nope. I mean, it's always nice to have them, but like at some point,
but you get a younger defenseman who is going to be there for a long time if they decide to keep him, and he's just really good, really solid, and has a lot more upside to his game that hasn't really been utilized and unlocked in Toronto. So it's a perfect opportunity for him.
And if you get, like, if you're San Jose, like, the calculus on this is simple. You're moving a guy who is not really an NHL option in Matt Benning, moving a 3rd-round pick where, if it turns out to be anything even close to Timothy Liljegren, is a great draft pick if you make it that way, and a 6th-round pick, which is a shot in the dark next season. So, like, basically they gave up nothing for him, just the same as they basically gave up nothing for Jake Wallman, right? Like,
they got paid.
So
they got paid to take on Jake Wallman.
Right, less than nothing. So they've paid basically negative assets for what might be 2 of their top 4 defensemen for a while, which, okay, like...
And if we round that out, like, let's say Sam Dickinson joins the top 4 at some point. That's Mario Ferraro, Sam Dickinson, Timothy Liljegren, Jake Wallman.
Yeah, which, cool, cool.
That sounds solid to me.
Yeah, I mean, it would work. It would work. So we'll see what happens.
I think the thing that bothers me the most is that the Leafs now need a top 4 defenseman, and they just traded one away for nothing. So how do you make that up? I don't know, because I'm not a big fan of OEL. I think he kind of has shoot on the brain a little too much. Like, he's got a itchy trigger finger. And I find that a lot of the times he just shoots in non-advantageous positions, and he's just unable to come up with anything. Yes, he scored a goal at the game I went to, but it's just because he brute force shot a bunch of times, and finally the puck went in the back of the net. And that was the only sad lone goal of that terrible game against the St. Louis Blues. So I'm not a fan. I wish that money went to Sean Walker because he got the exact same contract.
Correct. Yes, he did. Maybe you just didn't want to play in Toronto because you love him too much or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I scared him away.
Yeah, maybe it's your fault Sean Walker isn't at Toronto.
Yeah, and OEL was like, probably. Wow, that AJ guy was really, really nice to my fellow countryman John Klingberg all last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely go and get on his good side.
That's correct. That sounds about right. That sounds reasonable.
I yelled at John Klingberg at a game pretty loudly.
I mean, he was not very good.
Maybe.
He was not very good. That was unfortunate for him. But yeah, I mean, so I think San Jose has just been doing good things. Like, Mike Greer, obviously, for me personally, like, I don't agree with everything he does, but like, in general, the way he's been steering the ship, I think trends in the right direction way more than it doesn't.
Yep.
They're not there yet, obviously. They're still, I believe, the worst team in the league, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least very close to it.
They're in the bottom tier for sure right now. Like, if we were to go to the standings, they're not high up there.
But they're kind of that Montreal Canadiens thing right now, where it's like, we have all these kids, we have all these young guys, we're gonna play them. We might not win much, but they're gonna get experience, which I'm all behind. I get it. I totally understand that logic, and we'll see what happens with them. But I think Liljegren's he's not going to hurt them. And I think the other thing too, you mentioned it, but I see so many people in Toronto, being someone who lives here, saying that he just like didn't fit. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna miss him and he'll probably be good somewhere else, but he doesn't fit.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And I'm like, what is
Make
that? And I'm wondering
fit.
what they mean by that. Like, what do you mean, right? Like,
I'm going to have a fit.
What is it about him that means that you play a guy like Phil Myers over him?
You don't. Right? Like, you don't. Right. Phil Myers doesn't compare. Like, this is what's bothering me. Like, I like the way that they're playing now, this faster up-tempo style of game. But how does Timothy Liljegren, a mobile defenseman, not fit in that? To me, that sounds like you don't like him because he don't go smash.
That's probably what it is.
And why? We don't need it. Everybody on this team goes smash, it feels like now on defense. Like, Jake McCabe kind of does. Simon Benoit can do it. Like, maybe Connor Timmins not so much, but like, and Morgan Riley, no. But why is Timothy Liljegren the odd man out when he's just the quietly good guy that's cheap?
Because he's Swedish.
OEL Swedish.
And not named OEL. OEL's a Stanley Cup champion. What has Timothy Liljegren ever won?
Yeah, he's a Stanley Cup champion as a third pair defenseman. Like I don't care. I don't care. He got to play sheltered minutes and enjoy the coasting to a cup.
By the way, pumpkin update. We have now gutted one of them. We're on to gutting the other one now.
Yeah, I saw that Tony was like, "Are you actually carving a pumpkin?"
Oh, Tony's here.
Yes,
yes, two actually, in fact. Okay, Rayanne, I wouldn't call OEL a bum. That's a pretty drastic thing.
No, he's not as bad as John Klingberg was last year. No, but John Klingberg was horrible because of his injuries.
Yes.
Like, John Klingberg used to be really good. I just want to get that out of the way. He used to be a pretty admirable player in terms of what he could do. But
I mean, at what he did, yeah, for sure.
The injuries just made him not good anymore, and he really suffered. Yes, the way I'm suffering from this trade.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That's what it feels like, Will.
Yeah.
Like the Leafs ripped out my guts.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, the first gut rip out of a pumpkin is probably the most disgusting thing. Oh, there's another one. Oh, I'm actually, like, uncomfortable. This is unfortunate. But anyway, yeah, so we've gutted one. We're on to the second. If the chat has any ideas of what they want on one of these, I'm more than happy to try and oblige. I can't promise that it will work.
And I already asked for a Timothy Liljegren face pumpkin, and Will said he cannot do that.
No faces, no humans, because I am not an artist. I dropped art in the Ontario educational system as soon as I possibly could and went into music because that was my thing and not art. Oh, I just flung pumpkin seeds all over the room. Nice. Anyway, but yeah, so that's big sad for you and me. I mean, I'm a big fan of Timothy Liljegren. He's a member of Team Scouching, and I mean, hopefully this means that his time in San Jose will be productive because it should be. And I will miss him quite a lot, but it makes me more of a Sharks fan.
Yeah, you guys will enjoy him, all you San Jose Sharks fans. And
100%.
We know that there's a couple of you that watch our show, and we've been talking about how much we love this guy for a long time. So enjoy him. Treasure him the way my team didn't.
Well, who's quarterbacking their power play now?
Wallman, pretty sure. I can double check, but I'm confident it's Wallman.
I mean, yeah, so he could be a threat to do something that he just couldn't do in Toronto, which is help on a power play.
I still don't think he gets it.
Probably not.
He'll get the second unit, possibly. I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like he'll be there.
And he was the second PPQB for a while. Not this year, but in previous years he was.
I also looked this up because I saw some tweets today talking about him never actually being that good or a bust of a draft pick. And I think he's the third highest points per game defenseman in the 2017 draft who have played decent NHL games. So that seems to be okay. And it's a good example of like why we all need to calm down with projecting NHL players in the draft. Like being Timothy Liljegren, being the third highest scoring defenseman from 2017, which had, I believe he's behind Makar and Heiskanen. that's great company, but he's way behind. But it doesn't matter. Like there's, if I come out and say, oh, this guy reminds me of Timothy Liljegren, a guy who just was benched for a bunch of games and got traded for basically nothing, people are going to go, what are you talking about? But it's like, I don't know, when you're in the middle of the first round or the second in the late first round, like getting a guy who can play middle or bottom pair on your defense group is a fine pick. So okay, so yeah, it is Wallman quarterbacking. Someone mentioned that.
Right. So I actually looked on Daily Faceoff. Right now they have Jack Thompson in the spot.
Yeah, Liljegren's an upgrade on that. I mean, I don't mind Jack Thompson, but you put Liljegren there and let him.
And this is as of today.
Right.
This is as of today, just under an hour ago, the way they were practicing.
Oh, so is Liljegren even there?
Not yet.
Not.
I don't think he's like, because I think they're playing tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think
can take a look on that, but
usually guys that are traded don't play that quick.
Yeah, they're playing tonight against Chicago.
Okay. Well, good for Liljegren. I think it's a good landing spot. I thought that was a team that might be interested in him because they need bodies who can play at the NHL level, and he's a step in the right direction, and he's not 35 years old. So
no, he's 10 years younger than that.
Exactly. So he'll be fine. He'll be a nice pickup, and for what they paid for him, it's basically nothing. So who cares?
So do you want to get into the other thing, the thing we did yesterday, which was pretty cool?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so we did another cool thing yesterday. AJ, you can actually run this because you've been running that side of things recently. But fill everybody in. What's going on?
So with Game Tape coming to the Scouching channel, and it's going to premiere on Friday, November the 8th, I believe is the date. But next Friday is the idea. We had a sit-down interview with Michael Misa yesterday, and it was a lot of fun to pick his brain. Tony was there too, obviously, doing his thing and asking the questions that I had helped curate with him. But we got a sense of what Michael Misa's like as a person, and I came away pretty impressed. Smart kid, very well media trained, as I think you and I, as well as Tony, we all picked up on. But reads the game super well.
I must say that's not a negative. No, that's just a thing to note because he's been on the radar of hockey people probably since he was 14, 15? Definitely 15. Maybe even younger than 14.
I would say 14 probably.
Yeah.
At the very least.
So he's been around the block already and he's only 17 or 18. So but I mean I was there as well. I didn't really participate. I was just kind of overseeing it, making sure Tony didn't say anything too crass or whatever. Which
you were just there to sit in and listen to him more than anything.
Yeah, and judge him endlessly, of course. No, I wasn't. I did not do that. I swear. But yeah, I mean, he's a nice kid. I'm so thankful to any organization or kid who takes time to help us out and give us some stuff that really is good. Like I thought the things that he was talking about were insightful. Like, he was contrite, I would say. Like his answers were right to the point, pretty clear. Everything was cool. And yeah, like no issues really there. And I thought it was an interesting interview, and we'll probably have it in a couple of weeks, I would think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We're aiming for around the 15th for that one, because that would be 7 days after the opening episode, the premiere episode on the Scouching brand, which will be with Landon DuPont.
Yes.
So we have 2 exceptional status players to kick off the premiere of Game Tape with Tony Ferrari on the Scouching brand. So that's super exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I agree a lot with the sentiment you said about him. Just really smart and able to pick up on, because I've been editing some of the tape now and putting it to his words. And just like with Landon DuPont, it's super easy to pick up on what he's saying for me editing this. Yeah. And so I just highlight it, pause the screen for a second, and just let him do the talking, essentially. And I think what I really think is great about this series, especially now that we're going to have it with higher production value, is that it's going to be great for fans of these guys, teams even, to just like see how these kids think the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome. Like, I've just been super impressed with both Michael and Landon in the first 2 interviews I've been a part of. So it's been an honor to be there and just get to listen to them pick apart their games.
Yeah.
But it's exciting, and it's a side that I never thought that I'd be able to have access to, at least not immediately. I think this is pretty early on for me even to like, and I'm there and I get to be there with these guys and curate questions, but it's a really cool experience.
Yeah, and I think he also had a really, really good, like I think you touched on it, but he had a really good sense of like how far he's come as a player.
Yes.
And his journey, I guess you could say. And I think like we asked him about his exceptional season, right? Like where he was 15 years old playing in the OHL, and like how he was prepared for that, and like why, and what he's worked on since, and all that stuff. And he just, he had really good answers to that and like really insightful things. And, so say what you will about hockey player stereotypes, but he's a good kid. And I am going to run for a second and grab some paper towels because I forgot to earlier, but I'm done gutting. Now this is finished in there. It's a nice empty skull. And I'll be right back in 2 minutes. So AJ,
so I have to fill this entire 2 minutes.
Literally 40 seconds. Time me.
Okay. But yeah, so Will is going off. When Will suggested that he carve a pumpkin on this live stream, I just thought it was incredibly funny. Tony Ferrari asked earlier actually about if Will was actually carving a pumpkin, and he was so curious that he even messaged me on Discord to get the answer expedited, because like Tony wanted to know, and he couldn't stick around for that long. He just wanted to show up, support the stream, give us an extra view, because Tony's a great guy and we love him here. But he asked me like a couple minutes after he left the stream, he's like, is he actually doing that? Is he actually doing that? I'm like, yes, he is. And Tony's like, amazing. So it's pretty hilarious. And Will comes up with some pretty creative ideas here and there. And what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Say no? He's my boss. Kind of can't.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're partners.
Yes, very unequal partners, but that's okay. I do not mind.
Exactly. Now we're talking. Okay. I think I'm going to sit down now and go on to the next phase of my work here.
Can you give us can you show us what you've done so far? Show your work, please, for the class. Okay,
professor. I mean, here's the big boy. I mean, for some reason on the big boy, I cut a hole too small, but I got everything out of it. So the hard part's over there. And then we've got another smaller boy with a nice little hole in it. So I don't know what I'm going to do on this guy or this guy. Well, I know what I'm going to do on one. I got a request from the other person in the household for one of them.
And Rayanne suggested Evan Bouchard and said he's not human.
I specifically said...
He said he's not human, people. Will. He said he's not human.
He's still a person. He may not be human, but he is a person. And I'm not going to do people. So, okay.
And all right, Rayanne, I will sing if you you donate a large sum of money. No, I'm kidding. Don't actually do that. I don't want us to get copyright striked or anything. I have no problem singing. It's just like, we got a show to put on, and I can't steal it. I can't. This is not a platform for me to, take all the spotlight away from Will. It's why I actively keep my beautiful face off camera, so Will doesn't, doesn't feel insecure about his bad facial hair compared to mine. It's all good.
That is a truth. I'm not gonna lie. That is a truth. Don't judge me. I'm gonna use a screwdriver bit to draw out.
The second you said "don't judge me" is when I start judging, because it's like, don't tell me what to do. Don't. That's true. Just don't tell me what to do.
Side note: every homeowner should own an all-in-one screwdriver. It's very, very handy. Not that being a homeowner is a particularly easy thing to accomplish these days.
No, it is not.
No, it is not.
So before we get to the chat questions,
Yes.
Do you want to talk a tiny bit of Survivor, and then we can get to all the lovely people here and their questions? How does that sound?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's fresh in our minds.
So let me
yeah.
start it off with a question to you. What did you think of the episode?
Man, this season's a banger. If anyone here is not a Survivor fan, now is a good time to get in because this season is simply awesome.
We've converted Rayanne.
That is true. We have.
At least a little bit. I think he's only seen one episode, but he's liked it.
Yeah, and I mean, I was not a fan. I watched the first season when I was a child, and then I grew up and kind of lost touch with it.
I was in my mama's womb when the first season finale was finishing.
See, I remember distinctly watching that show. Also, shout out to, I mean, he doesn't seem to be the best human being on the planet, but that doesn't make anything worse. Richard Hatch, the guy who won season 1, I believe he was one of the first gay people like on television who was just like a normal person. Like, not saying that, you know what I mean? Like, he was on a reality TV show and like was very out and open about it. And I think it was like a very new thing at the time. Like, it wasn't a very common. It was a very uncommon thing to do back in 1999 or whatever it was. So
2000.
I mean, he dodged all his taxes on his winnings and everything. So that's not great. But you know, whatever. I mean, that's a bit of a badass behavior, I suppose. Not paying your taxes and going to jail for it. Well,
so
I don't think he went to jail, but yeah, the episode. I mean, it's another banger. I thought it was really, really good.
Do we want to say spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert?
Spoilers. But yeah, I mean, it was a very good. It was very good. I mean, I think. Sorry, I'm also quite focused on this, drawing my stencil here with a very sharp knife. But yeah, I mean, I thought that the only thing I don't like is these silly twists where it doesn't matter what's happening in the game, but like by default, people get screwed, right?
Yes, like last night.
Like Rachel was gonna go home last night if they didn't have that twist thrown in the game. And also, like, I thought it was really funny the difference between Andy and Saul looking for that idol.
The advantage, right?
The advantage, yeah, sorry.
At the like, because it was an immunity challenge mixed with a sort of drawn tribe immunity, but really it's just a group immunity with an individual immunity in the group that went to tribal. Like, I feel like Survivor is switching it up a lot of the time, so you're left kind of not knowing what's going to happen. And honestly, as unfair as that might be for the show contestants, it makes for good television.
It does. And I don't know about like a gameplay thing, but you know.
Yeah, like
I understand, I suppose.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, Saul just found that advantage and was able to will Rachel a safety without power advantage or extra vote. And
that was pretty cool.
She was just able to leave.
Yep, totally.
And then Tiana went home because there was nothing, which is a shame. But like, was it entertaining? Was it exciting?
Yes.
Yeah. And as a guy who edits videos and loves the storytelling aspect of things, God, Survivor's so good at it. They're so good at it. As soon as Rachel like dropped out of the challenge, immediately they're like showing her, like there's so much focus on her that this is going to come into play just by the way they're highlighting her in all the shots down the line, and they just paid it off perfectly.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what they're doing with Andy, because they started him off as this pretty pathetic sort of character, and now he's kind of like changing the way his confessionals have changed in terms of like his demeanor. Yeah. He seems more calculating, more understanding, more aware of things. Like, he's not this hopeless guy who wants people to clap when he breaks open a coconut, like on the first episode or whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, he it seems like that's not an uncommon thing. I don't know how much you've watched of this show over the years, but there seems to be characters who just have complete and utter meltdowns really early. and then figure it out and actually become decent players.
Yeah,
and
they give them
I'm not
redemption
saying,
arcs. Like that's
I'm not
kind of their
saying he's
storylines.
decent. I'm not saying he's decent because like I thought it was really funny at the thing where they're all chilling and Saul found the advantage. It's like the judgment of Andy was so different from Saul, but you look at it and you're like, well, yeah, like the way Andy was doing it, he was just rolling around on the ground in front of everyone. And Saul was just kind of skulking around and no one was the wiser.
It's funny because the advantage was behind him. So
yes,
it was easier for him to be able to conceal the fact that he was grabbing an advantage because like he walked around a bit and came back to sit down. And he realized that's where the thing was. Like it was a little parchment in like a spot that was concealed that he was sitting behind.
Yeah.
So he was just able to grab it because he sat up against like one of the support. It was like a piece of wood, like a cylindrical sort of piece of wood that was holding up like this gazebo that they were all sitting under, like a plant or something. And then the parchment was in that plant. So it's kind of cool.
I mean, so yeah, the only thing I'll say before we move on is I mean, I really, I feel like they're setting up another downfall of Gabe because that guy is a real character and starting to bug me. But you know,
they want to make you. I think they want his downfall to be satisfying, so they're starting to make him look like a D-bag.
Yeah, I mean, from episode 1, I mean, when you refer to a bunch of the women who are working with you as tools or birds that are sick and dying.
I think he referred to like everybody like that, though. Did he not?
I don't know. Just seems like that kind of guy, though, which is fine, but you know, doesn't look great. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I thought he was gonna maybe go home, but it seems like what's her name, Carolyn, was very much against that idea.
Yeah.
How the hell do I get this out of here? This is going terribly, by the way. I must say.
I can
it's going
tell.
Terribly.
I can tell.
This is brutal, but we're coming along real slow here.
I think the most entertaining part of this entire stream is watching you struggle. Like I feel like I feel like to an extent, people might be here for us talking. They might have clicked off. Who knows? Yeah. But if you're still sticking around and watching Will struggle to carve a pumpkin, good on you. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I gotta get this part out here, and I don't know how to do that.
I feel bad. I'm gonna feel bad for all the people that are listening on audio and not seeing it.
Yeah, I don't know if this is even gonna be an episode on audio, but anyway.
Yeah, cursed edition.
Yeah. Did you want to? So we talked about Misa, Liljegren. Yep. I think that's enough Survivor. Do we want to get into some questions? And
yeah, let's go for it. Do you need me to read this stuff out?
Maybe start from the top because I think my chat has gone
no problem.
A little further.
So we got a question about your opinion on the Sharks rookies: Will Smith, Jack Thompson, Daniil Gushchin, and Ethan Cardwell having his first game last night.
Yeah, man. So I mean, Will Smith is kind of coming exactly how I thought he might, which is, you know, he's a guy who has limitations in his game. He's really skilled and definitely has the potential to be a good point producer, but just has not got the pace of play or overall reliability that you kind of need out of a high-end offensive player in the NHL right now, or especially for San Jose, where their needs are more apparent. But I mean, I think for a guy who's playing his first few games in the NHL, it hasn't been that bad. I've seen a little bit of the Sharks this year, but I can absolutely see why they're sort of bringing him along slowly and being a certain way with him, in a way.
But is his J-Fresh card goodwill? That's all that matters, ultimately.
I mean,
if the
I'm not going to judge.
Card...
I retweeted a J-Fresh card yesterday when it works. Again, it was Timothy Liljegren. Oh. If it makes me look smart, it's right. So I retweeted it because he was, I think, a top quintile or top quartile player at both ends of the ice defensively and offensively for a defenseman. So that sounds like a player you don't want to trade.
Surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. But you know, whatever. If you want someone to make smashy smash, that's not him. But yeah, I mean, Will Smith, I think, has been interesting, but I'm honestly I'm a little surprised he's in the NHL this quick. I thought he might need some AHL time, and he probably still does, but he's kind of like Montreal with like Slavkovsky, right? Like you put them in the NHL, and you leave them there, and you're like, look, like, this is the process. You're going to play and you're going to learn, and we might sit you a few nights, but like, that's for your own benefit and blah, blah, blah. And it's a learning experience and whatever you want to call it. So that's fine. Hopefully this isn't awful. Come on.
Do you want to show your work quickly?
No.
Why not?
Mostly because, well, I'm trying to get this worm body out of here, and it's being quite tricky. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Who were the other ones?
Daniil Gushchin, Ethan Cardwell, and Jack Thompson.
I mean, oh, there we go. As far as I know, Gushchin's been playing. Oh boy. Okay, this one might have to turn into a face, and we'll work on something else on the other one. Let's try that again. Yeah, let's do that. Let's turn this into a face.
Evan Bouchard, then? That's what Rayan wants.
No. We're going, if anybody knows the meme that just has happened with Gary Busey, Mr. Pumpkinhead, that's what we're going to go with. Gary Busey's Mr. Pumpkinhead, because that was very funny to me. But yeah, Daniil Gushchin, I mean, again, like, as far as I know, he's been on the fourth line in San Jose, which is probably going to be fine for him, but still, like, I mean, it's a work in progress with him. He was a guy, again, who I thought, you know, could be an NHL player, but playing on the fourth line is obviously...
Right now he's actually on the second line.
Oh, is he? Okay, he started the season on the fourth line.
Yeah, he's playing on the second line with Alex Wenberg and Fabian Zetterlund.
Oh, good for him.
Will Smith's playing lower down the lineup than Daniil Gushchin at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, good for him. I think he's always been a player that I've loved, obviously. I'm biased.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that fell right into the pumpkin.
Distracted live stream with Will Scouch.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, Gushchin is obviously really talented, really skilled, really fast, high-paced guy, which is exactly what I personally like. And he's come along well. Cardwell, I'm honestly with Cardwell. I mean, I tweeted about it, but I'm just happy for the guy because he's a guy who went undrafted. To toot my own horn, I actually got a message from an NHL scout saying that I'm becoming a much better, if it's a good thing, back patter of myself because of how much I'm doing that now that some of my boys are making it to the NHL. And he's one of them. I mean, in 2020, I had him ranked, and I believe he was on my best players that weren't drafted list that year. I think he was the highest ranked player I had that wasn't drafted at all. And so he's a really good player. I don't know about long-term NHL success, but I think his AHL time is part of the reason he's kind of earned the look. And we'll see how things go. But yeah, he's a player I've been a big fan of since he was with Barrie. Really skilled. Again, like a typical Doug Wilson Jr. archetype of a really skilled guy with a lot of speed and a lot of pace and maybe some questionable development potential, but he got there. So I'm just really happy for him.
And the last one's Jack Thompson.
Honestly, I don't know nearly as much about Jack Thompson as I do the other guys, but every time I've seen him, he's been fine. Like, he's been always just a fine guy. You know, he's got a pretty good shot from the point, decent amount of skill that I remember from when he was with Sudbury. But honestly, a guy that I didn't really peg for NHL success, but that's okay. I mean, that's how these things go. But yeah, I that's one I need to look at more, honestly, because he's a very curious one because he's one that I didn't see an NHL player with, and maybe I was wrong and I want to know why.
Or maybe you still don't see it, but you'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll read you out the next one. So
yes,
recently saw Benjamin Kindle was popping off for Calgary. Haven't seen him this year, but I watched a few highlights last year, and I thought he was physically outmatched last year. Thoughts?
Right. Yeah, so actually it's good you asked about him. Someone asked about him on Monday, I think, and so I said I would. I mean, it's actually funny that I followed through on my word here.
Because Will never does, usually.
No, I don't.
Other than following through on his word that he was going to carve a pumpkin today.
Yes.
I didn't think he was being serious. I legitimately did not think he was being serious.
Well, sometimes I'm serious. But anyway, yeah. So I did actually go and take a look at Kindle this week, and so he's fresh in my mind.
was that sound?
I'm thumbing an eye out. There we go.
Yeah, this cannot be just pure audio. I do not think this will work.
No. Yeah, no. What was what's
Kindle.
it called? Kindle. So yeah, I went and took a look at them. Okay, I've lost that fragment in there somewhere. I don't know where it went, but that's okay. Weird.
Kindle outmatched physically.
Yes,
Calgary.
yes.
Come on, Will. Stay on task.
Yeah, Ben Kindle. So I watched him this week, did a game. I was actually really impressed, honestly. I, going into the season, wasn't expecting much from him because I agree. I think that is the weakness of his, that is a little bit troubling. That he is a little bit physically, for a guy his size, a little bit soft. I don't mean that in a negative way, but like he does, pressure is a bit of a problem, and but the intent is there. Like the thing I kind of saw a lot of with him was like an Easton Cowan kind of vibe, where it's like, yeah, he'll probably be a bit physically outmatched here and there, but the appeal is more that he is just super, super smart and moves the puck really, really well. Real no-nonsense offensive game as well. A scout actually reached out to me about him this week when I said I was going to take a look at him, and he said like that there are people out there who are really high on him, and that there should be, some extra thought given to him as like a potential NHLer that may not like blow your mind, but could be just very versatile and useful. And I think that the smarts are there. I think that in terms of skill and all that fun stuff, like there's signs of a good future there. But it'll take time. I did really like him though. I liked him a lot more than I was expecting to like him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, so he's one that I didn't have as a super high priority going into this season. But now I do, because he's quite good. So we'll take a look at him. And but yeah, the physically outmatched thing I think is a thing with him, but I don't think it's the end of the world. So
okay, I will get to the next one then. Okay, reading through these. Some excitement for seeing Timothy Liljegren on defense. I also saw someone come in at the bottom about how he's not going to come back to haunt us. He will. Believe me. We're going to be looking at that trade in a couple of years from now, and we're going to be like, oh, we just let go a young defenseman who was pretty good. And there was no reason to let him go other than the fact that he wasn't physical, which, I mean, you mentioned, but I don't care. I almost swore because that's how angry I am about this.
AJ's a passionate boy.
He doesn't need to be physical. He just needs to do his thing, which is disrupting play in a quiet way, making sure that guys can't get in on zone entries, and that's what he was king of. And now he'll be able to do that in San Jose and probably get a little more offensive pop. So that's kind of the way I feel about that. But anyways, I'll get back to the questions that were the list.
If anyone's wondering, yes, I am indeed sawing away at this thing.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so I turned this into a face, and I think I'm gonna try to make it like that this pumpkin person is a survivor of trepanation. If you're not aware what that is, trepanation was an ancient surgical procedure where instead of actually fixing anything, they would just drill a hole in the side of your head. So I'm going to put a little hole in his head with a bunch of weirdness around it, and it's going to look weird. But my bar is really low right now here, so we're just going to go ahead and make a little hole. Anyway, sorry, did I miss something there?
No, it's okay. The next question is, I wanted to watch a couple of meme players. Thoughts on Passmore and Pennerborn?
I do like that there's someone named Passmore in this year's draft. But I haven't seen much of that guy. Pennerborn I've seen. I know he's scoring points. He's playing a ton of minutes on his team, which is not the best team in Sweden, but that's okay. But yeah, Victor Pennerborn, I didn't see an NHL guy there for me. Just didn't really have the speed and the skating ability and the pace of play that kind of you need in the NHL these days. But obviously that doesn't mean it's impossible. And yeah, so wow, that's ugly. Here's an update.
Update on your pumpkin.
How about that? Got some teeth, got some eyes.
It's actually not that bad.
Not functional, and
you know what it looks like?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I get like, and I could sound really dumb, but I get like gopher vibes. I don't know why.
Sure, I'll take a gopher. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, Victor Pennerborn. I mean, I don't have much to say about him. He's, he's a fine guy. Didn't really blow my mind, but he is quietly effective over in the Swedish Junior League. But that doesn't usually, when there's those types of players over there, I'm more interested in guys like Christian Konstantinsky, who Boston picked, who's like gigantic and really mobile and doesn't really have an offensive bone in his body, but you don't really care because he's just really effective. But yeah, the other guy I have not seen much of, honestly.
I'll just keep on moving then.
Yeah, let's do
So Jackson Blake apparently told by the Canes this week to get a place in Raleigh, so he's sticking around long term.
Good for him.
This is according to a chat comment. So
yeah,
I do not know the reliability of this, but I trust you. I trust you until I'm proven wrong.
I feel like that's an extremely random thing to throw out there when you don't have the knowledge of it. So
good for Jackson Blake.
Yeah,
I was a big fan of Jason Blake as a kid. He was, when Sundin left, he was my favorite Leaf for a time. And then it was
the bar was low.
Yeah, and then it was Anton Stralman, who we also touched on.
Yes.
That's how
Tampa
bad
Bay
it
Lightning
was.
Legend.
That's how bad it was.
It was bad. Yeah.
Oh,
and everybody thought it wasn't. Okay, let's try this again.
There's also a comment about Carolina being able to use Liljgren, but Sean Walker is just a better version of him, which I think is fair.
Yep, that's entirely fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a question from our boy, Rayan.
Oh, boy.
If you were an NHL prospect, which team would you least likely want to join? So I think, what team would you prefer not to join is, I think, really his question. Would you like to start, or would you like me to start?
You can start.
Well, in truth, I don't mean this to be mean, but I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan at heart. I could never join the Montreal Canadiens or the Ottawa Senators. I just couldn't do it. I'm too loyal. But I'm not in a position where I'd be playing professional hockey, so it kind of doesn't matter. And maybe my opinion would be different if I actually worked my ass off to get in a position like that. And those were the only two teams offering me a job. But like, I'm loyal. I'm loyal to my home. That's probably the way I would go. And probably not fair. Winnipeg either, just because, it's Winnipeg. I feel bad for saying that, but it's just like, I don't know. Like, what's there to do, man?
I can't say because I've never been to Winnipeg, but
fair enough.
Yeah,
maybe I'm being ignorant on this, but they'd have to sell me, and it'd have to be a really, really good team.
Right, and so I think for me, like, I genuinely don't really think there's an answer I wouldn't put, or I would put, sorry, but I'm thinking about teams where I feel like I probably wouldn't be a very good fit. Like, I don't know. I feel like, obviously, Edmonton, you get to play with Connor McDavid, which is a
awesome.
Huge boost. But I don't know. I feel like Edmonton's not a wonderful place to be a professional athlete. But I could be just angering people about that. I mean, I love Boston as a city. I really do. And I think that organization is pretty classy and top-notch generally. But I don't think they're playing, like, looking at what they're doing to your son, Fabian. I don't think that they
my
quite
son
jive.
Of 2 years, my junior, yes.
Yes.
Or 3.
I'm just not sold on that potential there for him. So I don't know about Boston. But I don't think there's an NHL city out there where I'm like, I'm not interested in this. Actually, I've never been, but there's honestly nothing much in this world I hate more than awful car-focused urban design.
And so you're saying LA? I think I should.
That LA and Dallas.
Yeah.
I feel like Dallas is extremely sprawled out, which I don't like.
Really? You wouldn't want to be in Dallas? I feel like that's a place that I'd be down for.
I mean, I feel like they would treat me well, but
well,
yeah, I don't know.
They steal your work anyways, right? That's why they got Stankoven. That's why.
Whoa, that's rumor city there.
No, but come on, man. They took Stankoven. They took Maverick Bork, and your data was very favorable towards them, right?
Yes, they were. It was.
I'm not making any real accusations. I'm just saying it's an odd coincidence.
It's funny how, yeah.
That's all.
Well, yeah, I mean, so, and Antonio Stranges actually looked really good in my data that year too, but I wasn't nearly as high on him. And now you know why. But anyway, no offense to Antonio Stranges, he's way better than me.
That goes without saying, though. All these players we talk about are better than us, okay?
Way better.
And we mean no disrespect. We are talking about them comparatively to their competition.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, I think the real answer to that would be Dallas and like places like that, like LA, because I feel like I just would not mentally be as performative, high-end performative, if I hated the place in which I lived because of a pet peeve of mine, which is gigantic sprawling cities that, you know, like New York is my vibe. I like Toronto, right? I mean, that's obvious. I'm a little biased being a person who grew up there.
Yes.
As am I. You get my point. You get my point.
Would you be able to deal with the pressure of Toronto?
Not as a kid. Like if I were 17, probably not.
Fair enough.
If I'm 30, I mean, I'm 34 now, so probably now, yeah, because I just don't care about that stuff anymore. Like, but like social media and stuff, if I were 17 years old, like I got Facebook when I was 16. So like if I were 16 years old now or 18 years old now in a Facebook world playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, yeah, that would be really tough.
Fair enough.
I think.
Okay.
I'm getting sweaty here.
Ryan also mentions to please watch game tape when it comes out. So I will.
Yes.
I will pump that.
Oh, and if you want to see it early,
yes.
You can go to Scouching. You can go to Scouching.ca, where a subscription will get you early access to that and all the future ones.
3 days early.
3 days early, so you can get that next week.
Come out on the 5th. Come out on November 5th for subscribers, and I think it's really worth it to watch it 3 days early because it's really awesome.
You get a subscription.
I did a really great job. Yeah.
You get a subscription, and you, when you're unbelievably bored and tired of watching U.S. political election coverage, you can watch our video and take a break, and you get it before everyone else does.
So please do that. Yeah. Please do that.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the next question, and I am going to start this off by saying I'm not good with names sometimes. So if I mispronounce anything, feel free to flame me. Flame me until I learn it correctly. I think that's going to be the best way for me to learn and grow. Tell me I'm wrong. And tell me how dumb I am. So with that said, thoughts on Yoan Tasset, Jet Liljegren, and Lucas Carmiris? Or Cammiris. Yeah,
the last two I've seen way more of. Liljegren and... Carmiris. Actually, we saw Carmiris live. He's a Brampton Steelhead boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like Carmiris. I think he's a good skater and brings some good sort of off-puck intensity to the game that I like. I feel like he's maybe one of the more fun players that I don't currently have ranked, but I also want to take a closer look at him. Before I make any sort of drastic, it's draft prospects, but before I make any ranking-based decisions about him, I'm starting to think about finishing up a first version of my list for probably sometime late November, early December.
We'll do a ranking show.
Oh yeah, big time, as usual. And it's going to be awesome.
And you can get early access to that ranking if you subscribe.
Yeah, subscribers at the top tier get live access to my rankings, so you can see how much it changes on a given weekly basis, which is more than you probably think.
It's like every day, every hour, something moves.
Yep, pretty much. Oh,
that's a big chunk.
Yeah, I'm making a worm, or a snail, I guess you could say.
At a snail's pace.
There. It's a snail. That's a snail.
Okay, there you go. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's got the antennae or whatever you know. Okay, maybe I'll make them a bit bigger. Anyway, but yeah, Liljegren is an interesting one. I haven't seen him in detail just yet. Like I haven't tracked any data on him, but he is on the list. But I've only seen him in isolation a little bit, and I'm not sure he's like super high-end NHL focused guy for me right now. I just don't know if there's just like, he's a very good junior player. I've seen very smart things out of him, good rush offense. And I'll take a look at him for sure before the end of next month. But yeah, the one I'm most familiar with is definitely Carmiris. The other guy, I'll have to write the name down and get to later.
Coolio. I will, I gotta pull up the chat window again. One quick sec. All right, there we go. Oh, do you plan on doing some game tape with drafted prospects too? That'll be up to Tony, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do. So
yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we did, and you know, it's just a different person to talk to, which is fine by me. And I think that would be. It might be a little more complicated because I feel like NHL teams would need to be involved in that. Because I know we work with junior teams to like get this all organized and everything and approved. So we'll see about that, but we can talk to Tony about that because it would be very nice.
Here's what I'll do for you. I'll message Tony now, and if I get an answer during the stream, I will let you know. So
here we go.
Give me a quick second to do that. And will you fill time for
all right.
20 seconds while I ask?
We have a snail. Okay, now I have to put something, or a slug. I guess right now it's a slug. Also, someone mentioned in the chat as well, the pumpkin seeds are really good when you roast them. That's extremely true. Roasted pumpkin seeds are a very, very good snack, and they're very easy to make, especially at this time of the year. I feel like this is like the closest I ever have been or will come to Martha Stewart. Except all the insider trading that I do. You know, that might catch up with me one day, but we don't need to talk about that. Martha Stewart, though, yeah. I mean, I grew up watching Martha Stewart Living with my mom, so I'm well versed with arts and crafts, as you can tell. I mean, look at this extremely professional enterprise. But yeah, I don't remember if we ended on a question there or if we were just talking about doing game tape with drafted players, because I would love to do that. I would love to do that if we could, because I feel like the differences between being a junior player and a drafted junior player who's been to camps and stuff. Like I was listening to the Steve Dangle podcast where they were in Oshawa and they were talking to Jacob Oster, the goaltender for them, and what his experience was like at NHL camps. And I thought that was really cool.
Steve Dangle, you mean the guy that I used to drive crazy with stats?
Yeah.
Telling him that Nick Paul hadn't scored in 30 games, and then Nick Paul scores in the playoffs.
Yeah. I remember that. That was very fun.
He screamed at me. It was awesome.
And I knew AJ at the time quite well, too. So I knew that he was producing for Steve Dangle at the time. And so we had a bit of commentary going back then. And I found that very entertaining.
In fact, Will loving it so much was the reason I kept doing it. Will's like, that was awesome. Please do it again. And so I did.
Yeah.
So
it's good stuff.
Will had impact on that.
Yeah, sometimes I have ideas and thoughts.
So Tony got back to me.
Oh, okay.
He said that he could, but it's harder to do because NHL teams get involved and make it annoying.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense.
But if there's enough demand for certain players, we'll try and do it.
Yeah. Sure.
So there's your answer.
Okay. Let's close this out with, okay, I'm going to try something that might ruin this, but I don't care.
Why are you doing this, Will?
Well, the thing I was given to work with has a pumpkin as a snail shell. Right now I've got a slug, so I'm trying to find a way to put a pumpkin design into this pumpkin such that it looks like a shell for this snail. And I don't know how to do that. So I might just carve some more worms into this and just call it slugs and worms because I don't know how else to do this.
Come on, Will. You made a promise to your partner.
I did.
So maybe you shelve this project for just a little bit and come to the stream and your normal seated position, and
well,
we have a little bit of
I guess I could do that, but what time is it? 10 after 3?
Yeah.
Give me 15 minutes, and then I'll come and sit down. And well, I am sitting down, but we'll go from there. I look so small in this camera. That's hilarious.
Yes, you do. It's awesome.
I look so tiny. This is great.
You know what it looks like?
I'm like a little Ewok.
You know what it looks like, Will?
No.
It looks like you're about to do a moving stream. It's like you're packing things up because the table's out of the background.
Yep. I regret this decision already.
Then stop doing it.
Yeah, I'm just going to carve some worms in here.
All right.
Anyway,
so I'll get to the next one.
Hit me.
Looking forward to the World, I think that's Hockey Championship U17.
Yep. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
The answer is yes. I always love watching those. It's really good if you're a bit of a prospect nut too, if you're a Canadian especially, because it's like one of the earliest times where you get to see a bunch of Canadians from all over the country sort of on the same page and on the same surface playing for Canada, because they have two teams. So it's always fun to watch. I watch it way more now than I did years ago, because now I have a lot more time to do this kind of work. I mean, look at me. I'm functionally unemployed, but this is what I do.
Carving a pumpkin.
Yeah, this is my job. This is for work. Yeah. But anyway.
I'm phoning it in today. Why don't I just carve a pumpkin in front of my audience?
Hey, this is hard work. I'm sweaty. I'm working harder now than I work usually.
That is true.
But yeah, I mean, I'm always excited for it. It'll be really, really good to see these guys. I'm very curious about the Swedish 08s. I think Canada's 08s are going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Keaton Verhoff and Ryan Lynn, and I believe Landon DuPont will be there. I could be wrong. Might have to pull up the rosters there.
Ooh.
But they've got some really, really good players at these tournaments all the time. It's also good because it's like the first real time you see sort of the global hockey landscape playing against each other, right? Like these kids are 16 years old, and you get the best of Sweden, you get the best of Finland generally, you get the best of Czechia, whatever it is. And so, yeah, it's a good experience and always fun to watch.
Okay, so I'm looking up the roster, at least seeing if I can find anything recent.
Uh-huh.
I'm having difficulty locating it right now, so I'll just find another question and see if I can find it.
Yep.
Okay. So is this a draft where the four best players available or were there four best players available at first overall? Like, can teams draft for need?
I think that the top guys are probably going to end up on similar, like, wavelengths and roles for different reasons. I think they're very different players.
And just quickly, this person mentions Misa, Martone, Hagens, and Schaefer as those four.
And those are my top four as well. I would throw Victor Eklund in there because he has been spectacular for a pro team in Sweden, which is not easy to do. And he looks really good doing it. It's not like he's floating around doing nothing. He's driving the bus, which is nice. But yeah, I'd say that those guys probably could all end up in similar wavelengths, similar jobs at some point in the future. I think they'll play different roles, obviously, but yeah, I think it'll be an interesting group. I mean, I really like, Hagens is my number one right now. Misa's number 2, Martone's number 3, Schaefer's number 4, and Eklund is 5. But I mean, depending on what side of the bed I wake up on, you could probably talk about a bunch of those guys being legitimate options at any of those slots. I mean, the player I've been most impressed with while seeing them this year is Michael Misa, but Hagens hasn't really played all that much relative to Misa. And I think Hagens last year showcased exactly why he's one of the best kids for his age in the world. The thing with Schaefer that I think will be very interesting, that's very difficult to get a read on now, is the fact that he is almost eligible for next year's draft. So he's basically like a year younger than guys like Hagens and Eklund and Martone. So he's got a year of extra runway that those guys don't have. And so you kind of have to think Schaefer now relative to like Martone last year, right? And I think that boosts Schaefer a little bit because I loved Porter Martone last year. But Schaefer this year so far, for a guy who missed a month, I guess, has looked pretty good in the moments I've seen. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting group of players, and I don't really know what I think yet of all of them, but they're not that far apart to me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still looking for a roster thing. I can't really find, like, is it just
probably on Hockey Canada? Well, like Hockey Canada's website would have it.
Like, I see this this 2024 U17 World Challenge, and I see 2 Canadian rosters, like a Canada
there are.
White. Okay.
There are 2 Canadian teams.
Yeah, then he's on the Canada Red.
There you go.
Okay. And probably deservingly so, because he's awesome.
That is correct.
Like,
I mean, he's like the leading defensive scorer in the WHL right now, isn't he? Or very close to it.
If he's not, he's very close to it. He's over a point per game.
Yeah.
As a 15-year-old. And
that's so cracked.
And like I said, don't mean to brag, but having talked to the kid, no, but he's just really smart, stupidly mature for how old he is. Like, I think he might be more mature than me as a 23-year-old.
Oh, me at 15, I was watching The End of the World all day, every day, nonstop. And looking at funnyjunk.com, if you don't know what funnyjunk.com was, it was basically like Reddit / like it was basically where you found all your memes back in like 2004. If anyone remembers that picture, it was just a picture of a race car, and it had the Axel F frog guy on top of it. The bring ding 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 ding. Yeah, like that's where that came from. And that was legitimately one of the most viral things in the world. It was #1 on funnyjunk.com for like months.
That's so awesome.
If anyone shout out funnyjunk.com.
Does that website still exist?
I don't know. Probably not. Actually, I don't know. Because it was very popular.
I'd be worried to look, but
what's the worst that could happen?
Next question's from David Phillips, so I'm going to skip that.
The answer is no.
Yeah, I haven't seen Andre Mamia or whatever. Like Mamia.
Wait, how do you
it's a Mama and I.
Oh yeah, I've seen that guy.
Oh, you
I
have?
don't think he was great, but I have seen him. He's an UFA boy, I think. Shout out Rodion Amarov, wherever you may be. UFA guy.
Wow.
He was okay. What?
Wherever you may be.
I don't know. Maybe he's surfing a turtle in the universe or something. I don't know.
Okay, Frank Cervelli, pump the brakes.
Okay.
No, I'm messing around.
Okay.
Talking about heaven, willing things. Come on, man.
I'm a devout agnostic.
Next question. Is it more difficult to be a Leafs prospect because Toronto is Toronto? I think not until you actually show up.
I think that Toronto does a really good job nowadays with dealing with their young guys and getting them to not care about social media as much. Like, I think that's the biggest hurdle now is like, does people commenting that you suck bother you? And if it does, here are some skills to help it not be that. And I think that that's the biggest thing. Like, in terms of playing in front of fans, it's just that the fans care. Like, the fans in Toronto just want the team to win, and they want you to try and make it like at least look like you're
the
trying
ones
to win.
That don't go to games care.
Right, exactly. And so yeah, it's I think it's obviously one of the more difficult places to be an NHL prospect because the scrutiny is enormous and the media is quite something here sometimes with how they analyze the team. Like, a big example of that is like, look at Timothy Liljegren, right? He came into the NHL. He's kind of always been overlooked for reasons that really don't make any sense to me. Like, he came to Toronto immediately after being drafted, which was a bit of a surprise, but he played for the Marlies for like 3 seasons as a teenager. And then people were immediately at that point being like, well, like, when's he going to be in the NHL? He's been in the AHL for so long. And like, when's push going to come to shove and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, bro, he's been there for 3 seasons and he's 21. Like, what's the big deal? Like, I don't understand. Like, most other guys in that draft weren't playing in the NHL yet. And Liljegren was one of the most productive AHL defensemen at the time. And eventually it got to the point where he did make the NHL, but it feels like everyone's kind of overlooked him because it's like, oh, he was this guy that was supposed to be a top pick, and then he fell to 17, and then he stayed in the AHL for like 5 seasons. And so I don't know, like maybe he's not actually that good, but it's like when you look at him in detail, you see why he's effective and why he's been, I mean, coveted by people like me. So, and if you can't deal with like that kind of coverage being all over the place and like everything like that, like if I was a Toronto Maple Leafs prospect, I would just not have social media. Like I would just not have an account. I'd just have burners that was like, you know, something no one would ever find, right? And just lurk. But even then, like, it just seems like
but don't you want to make ad money? Like, don't you want some sponsorships and things? Like,
well, sure, but not when I'm like a 6th round pick and 17 years old.
Yeah, but do you really think fans care at that point? To the same extent, it's like they're not gonna hype this player up and say they suck if they're a 6th round pick.
No,
I think I honestly feel like it's more once you've gotten older that it becomes a problem. Like once you're around the team, that it's an issue.
Yes. If you have more to say about this question, I might go wash my hands because they're extremely dirty and I'm done. And we'll do a show. Actually, may as well while my hands are still dirty. But this is the first guy, if you forget, the guy who had a trepanation procedure and has turned out a little bit strange from that harrowing day. And here we have an art piece I like to call Slug and Worms. So there's that.
How much are they being auctioned for at Scouching.ca?
That's an excellent question. I will say that the squirrels in my neighborhood have really ravaged this development area with eating pumpkins and stuff. So that's why I kind of left this all to the last minute as well, because there are squirrels everywhere and they're eating everybody's pumpkins. So I'll have to grab them at the end of the night and maybe we'll auction them off when they're rotted and old and crappy, and we'll ship them halfway across the country for like 8 cents, maybe. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to run and wash my hands. I'll be back in a minute.
All right. Well, I guess I'm the captain now. So we'll run with me for a little bit, but I'll just continue answering the question about the prospect and being in Toronto. I think Will's kind of got the right idea, but like, I don't know. The way I look at it is once you're around the team, that's when the pressure's on. When you're originally drafted to the franchise, I think there's a lot of optimism and hope that people have for you to be something good. And as you don't make the NHL every single year, that intensity that pressure sort of intensifies because you were hyped up in Timothy Liljegren's case, he was a 1st-round draft pick. And it's like, oh, this is a 1st-round pick defenseman. So he's going to be good because he's a 1st-round draft pick. You know, there's this expectation that comes around with 1st-round draft pick. But once you get into the rounds beyond that, and you get into the middle rounds, the middle part of the 2nd round and in the 3rd, that's when that sort of declines. Like, you don't hear people complaining, oh, well, Topi Niemela and Ronnie Hirvonen suck. Like, you don't hear that because they're not 1st-round picks. But with Liljegren, it's like you just see a guy who you expected to be more because he's a 1st-round pick. Like, you want him to have offense, and all this pressure mounts. And fans don't like him because he's not physical. And he's small, even though he has a beard. But, like, I don't know. I just look at it like, why do you care so much, guys?
Hello?
Yes, you are back. You are back.
Are we alive?
Yeah, we're alive. I was just talking about kind of how when you're a 1st-round draft pick, the expectation's way higher. Nobody cares about the 2nd and 3rd round picks necessarily as much, unless it's in, like, the middle of the order of that 2nd round. but like the expectation is why they get disappointed and put pressure on you. And I think that's the issue with Liljegren in this case. Fans wanted more, and I don't know why. He was pretty good.
Ah, well, what can you do? Am I coming through loud and clear or what?
Yep.
All right. Thank you for your patience. My hands are now relatively clean.
Relatively clean.
I only knocked my headphone out of the headphone jack twice there, but we're back. We're alive and ready to go. I have my Toys R Us catalog here, so I get to pick out everything I want for Christmas from Santa Claus. Anyway, let me get resettled here. And
all right, so I'll just keep going on. So yes. There's a comment about Cardwell's work ethic being unreal.
It is quite good, yes.
Then somebody says, "Go Sharks, go!" I echo that sentiment. I want to see the Sharks do well. They've always been my favorite California team. Just love the color scheme. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where like I watched a bunch of Yahoo highlights as a kid, and I just loved the name Jonathan Chichu. So that's why I became a Sharks, or like the Sharks a little bit, even though he was undoubtedly the worst one of those big time players that were there, because he was just he was the biggest passenger. But that's okay.
That is true. He was.
Next one. An NHL scout said that McQueen is more physical than Tage Thompson. And no, it was not Craig Button, apparently. How do you feel about that?
So I just did a second game of McQueen, like before Monday, I think, or since Monday. I don't remember. And yeah, I mean, maybe. I kind of see where they're coming from on that. But that, again, to me, where he is now is like, that's a very lofty bar. Because Tage Thompson already, I mean, at least for a time, was a very, very productive NHL player. And it took a long time for him to get there. He was traded.
But he's just saying he's more physical, he is a more physical Tage Thompson. I read it wrong. Okay.
McQueen is a pretty physical player. I just don't, again, it's like, it's a fundamental philosophical thing for me, right? Like when I watch McQueen, I go, I want a guy who, if I'm drafting you really high, who is very, very effective in as many possible situations as possible in a hockey game. And with McQueen, it is just not there a lot, or at least not enough as other players in the draft, guys like Eklund and Martone and Misa. It's just not there. So for me, I just haven't seen a guy who puts him up at that point for me, but I do think that the potential is there. With him, it'll be a matter of his development curve, right? Like the right team with the right staff around him and, you know, keeping him in the right mentality and taking enough time with him, he will, you know, do the job. He'll do pretty well, I think. It's again, like, it's like talking about a guy like Levshinov at 2. It's like, I get kind of why you're doing that, but I don't know why you would take on that kind of risk at 2nd overall. It's like you have the opportunity to just go, well, let's put Ivan Demidov with Connor Bedard, you know, and go, great, let's do that. Or you could go, well, but what about the mystery box? What about if this guy could be this?
I love the mystery box analogy. It's so great.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Could be another mystery box.
It could be a box with a box in it. But yeah, I think with McQueen, it's, you know, for me, it's a player who, I think if the game is slow, he has great skill and can get through traffic and, you know, make plays around the net. He does have a physical side to him. He is a really, really interesting player, but I think he's just a ways away from being, and he's also one of the older guys in the draft. Like, I think he's just a ways away from being a top 5 quality player right now, especially considering who I have in that range. So yeah, I mean, I see where they're coming from on that, but I think that's like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, this guy could be a first line center. It's like, well, okay, sure. But like that, think about what you're saying. Like that's a huge bar to hit.
But Will, what they're saying is he needs an Alex Tuck because Tage Thompson is nothing without Alex Tuck.
Correct. Yes.
At least that's how I feel.
Correct.
He isn't nothing, but Tuck drives the bus, guys. Like, he drives the bus, okay?
I love Alex Tuck.
Alex Tuck is the best thing on the Buffalo Sabres, not named Rasmus Dahlin.
Yep.
I mean, Zach Benson will get there, but like, and I mean, they've got some good players, but like, still. Alex Tuck, criminally underrated, just a phenomenal, fun player to watch. I'm gonna use this term again. I don't know that I've used it on the show, but Alex Tuck is what I would call an AJ player. He goes and goes and goes. He's relentless. He's just all over it, and he drives the bus. And those are the kind of guys I like.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a team full of Alex Tucks, and you're laughing, in my opinion. But you might win every game 3-2, but you're gonna probably win.
Don't care. I'll take it.
Yeah, don't care. I see the questions now. Who are your PTFG players so far this season? So that's just play the frickin' game. Insert whatever F word you want. That gets the point across.
Flopping.
I mean, play. Who plays the flopping game? I would put Cole Reshny up there right at the top. I love him. Eric Nilsson as well is a guy who I've loved obviously this year. I won't shut up about him, but he just seems to get it.
Is Victor Eklund in that camp, maybe?
Yeah, Victor Eklund, I would say, is in that region. I'd say Reshny is definitely the guy there for me. On defense, I mean, I hate to use the word boring, but in a boring but effective way, I'd say Blake Fiddler is part of that as well. He just goes out and plays. Zeb Lindgren in Sweden is also another one where he just kind of goes out and plays the game. He's not super fancy, but he's really efficient and just gets the job done. Jake O'Brien is another one where it's like, I don't know about how much NHL upside a guy like O'Brien has, but he's got the brain, he's got the mentality, he's got lots of ability. But I don't know about long-term. I don't know about long-term upside in that case, but I don't mind him. There's a few this season, but I would definitely lead off with Mr. Reshny. Someone mentioned that at least the jobs markets are fantastic in sprawling places like Raleigh, Dallas, and Atlanta. I mean, of course, but I mean, the question was about being a hockey athlete, which, you know, how big the job market doesn't matter. I get my job already. So, yeah, I mean, I've never been to Atlanta, but it is also another one of those massively sprawling places. There's a lot of NHL places I haven't been, but where I live makes a big difference in my mind of like how I am. Who's the all-time GOAT of Canadian athletes, but not NHLer and not NHLers? Why is your athlete the correct choice, and why is either guy's choice wrong? Everyone else wrong. The GOAT athlete of in Canadian history. That's a good question.
Can't be a hockey player.
No.
Well, I guess I don't know. Alphonso Davies or like Steve Nash, maybe.
I was gonna say Steve Nash. Yeah, like because Steve Nash. I mean, I grew up watching Steve Nash, and he was just unbelievable. Just like in terms of being an athlete, and also a really good basketball player. Like he was amazing. I'm trying to think of other guys. I mean, Donovan Bailey, but he wasn't. You know, he won a gold medal at the Olympics, but like he was he won a he set a world record when no one was really expecting him to, I don't think.
I mean, I think I would have answered Connor McDavid if I was given the option, but
right.
But that's because I like the safe, easy answer.
Does Terry Fox count? Does Terry Fox count? That's a different kind of GOAT because that is athletic. What he did was athletic beyond comprehension. I mean, that's kind of something like the Terry Fox thing. If anyone's not familiar, but like, I don't know how you're not, but like the Terry Fox thing is like, it's one of those things where you hear about it and you're like, that doesn't seem real. Like that just doesn't, it just seems so crazy because it also happened before either of our times that like, it just doesn't add up that you're like, someone did that? Like you also forget how young he was. He was like 21 or something, trying to run across Canada, like battling cancer. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. And he made it to like, he started in St. John's and I think he made it to Thunder Bay, which is, if you know anything about Canadian geography,
that is a long way.
That is an unbelievably far amount of distance. So if Terry Fox counts, I'd throw him in there. But Steve Nash, I think, is also right up there. Alphonso Davies was a good answer because he's also been amazing in a sport that Canada traditionally has not been amazing at.
He's a few days older than me. Makes me sad.
Oh boy. Oh, I lost my mouse. Okay. Have you seen Lars Steiner from the Rune-Noranda Huskies? And what do you think of him? He's currently doing quite well for a 16-year-old, next first rounder from Switzerland. Yeah, Steiner was the guy at the Holinka who I liked the most on the Swiss team but that bar was pretty low. That team was not very good. But Steiner was really fun. He's a fun player. He's electric. He's an agile, skilled guy. Quick wrist shot release, but pretty creative playmaker as well. He's off to an unbelievable start with Ron Noranda, which is great. Him and guys like Bill Zahn in there have worked really, really well, just pushing results in the queue. So yeah, he's going to be pretty high on my list to start the season next year, and we'll see. But he's been very good, and I think next first rounder from Switzerland. I mean, it depends on who you ask. Jamiro Reber's having a really friggin' good rookie season in the SHL this season. If you're not aware, Jamiro Reber was undrafted last year, but was one of the youngest players eligible. And he is, I believe, like a week or two older than a guy like Roger McQueen or Malcolm Spence. And he's a half a point a game in Sweden this year. And in the first game he played in the SHL, he was he almost scored a lacrosse goal, or did he? He tried, at least. I also saw the comment about Christine Sinclair. That is extremely true. That is an extremely good answer that I shamefully forgot about.
Yes, me too. And longevity plays a good factor in it.
Longevity too. Yeah, she played for a long time.
She's definitely the GOAT for the women's side of things.
Yes, I was all like, Haley Wickenheiser did cross my mind, but only insofar as, like, yes, she was an incredible hockey player, but also the most impressive thing to me for her is, like, she went and played men's hockey overseas, which, you know, does not happen very often, even today, for women's hockey players. But in terms of, like, raw athletic ability and, like, you know, football is still a really big deal for women too in the world. And the Canadian women's team has been very good for a long time. And that's large. A lot of it is driven by Christine Sinclair, and a lot of girls play soccer in this country because of her. So that's also a big plus. Just the same as I imagine Steve Nash in basketball and Vince Carter, obviously, too. But for women's soccer, yeah, definitely Christine Sinclair is right on that list as well.
But Carter is not Canadian. He just played for the Raptors.
No, I know. But like, in terms of importance to growing a sport,
yes.
You know, but yeah, he is an American. Honorary Canadian, I would say. Vibes are telling me that Peyton Kettles is a Leafs pick in this draft. Thoughts on him and how they make him into Chris Tanev 2.0? You want to talk mystery box? That's a mystery box. The Leafs, if they draft Peyton Kettles, they're getting one of the biggest guys in the draft, who I don't think has his role yet. I just don't. I watched Peyton Kettles a couple of times, and I tracked a game of his, and I do not know what to think of him. He's not ranked on my list right now, but I mean, he's a mystery box. He's a blank slate. If you draft him, and you can develop the mobility, and you can develop the physicality and the strength, you might have a guy there who can chip in and play in your bottom two pairs. You know, I don't think there's a particularly dynamic offensive guy there. I think he's a long way away. He is very young, very lanky-ish, just very tall, very young, which is cool. So, like, if someone were to come up to me and be like, he's Chris Tanev 2.0, to me, it's like,
that's
maybe
a really, really freaking high bar.
Yes, but that's a really freaking high bar. And also, Chris Tanev was undrafted.
Yep.
So it's like, guys like him, to me, Chris Tanev is a really good example. It's similar to Timothy Liljegren, but Timothy Liljegren was a first-round pick. But there are defensemen out in the world who play a style of defending that is against the grain of what typical NHL teams look for. And I feel like generally Chris Tanev is kind of like that. I could be wrong. He can be a physical player for sure, but he just seems very efficient and very effective. Like, you have to wonder why a player like him would have gone completely or was he undrafted? I might be thinking of someone else.
I don't think you're wrong. I think he went undrafted and he was a college free agent. I'm pretty sure that's undrafted. How he was.
Yep. He was undrafted college free agent.
You know what I bet you it is, and why he has the reputation he does now? It's because even though he doesn't physically impose himself on opponents, he puts his body on the line in a way that is just remarkable.
Very true.
And I think that's where he gets a lot of his praise from, where they don't care necessarily about the physicality. It's like, oh, this guy he's basically ruining his life by doing that, or like not ruining his life, but taking years off of his life by the way he plays the game. And I don't think that's a completely unreasonable thing to say about Tanev. Like, he just does the thing. If he needs to block a shot, it doesn't matter if he blocks a shot with his face. He blocked a shot.
Yeah. So I look at guys like, look at Victor Mancini, right? I think that's a really good example of what might be like a Chris Tanev 2.0. Not saying he's the same, but Victor Mancini went undrafted twice. If he were playing in Canada, he would have been draft eligible, but barely when he was drafted. But because he played in Europe, he was a draft, or I don't remember. He was playing in college, so he was probably in his last year of eligibility. It doesn't matter. Point is, he's in the NHL now, and was overlooked a ton of times. And he is just out there playing solid defensive hockey. Yes, he can play physical, but I hate the word poise, but he's got the poise. He's got the mentality, but he also has a bit of offensive pop to him. Like Chris Tanev is not a huge point scorer, but he's got a bit of zip to him in terms of moving the puck and doing all that stuff.
Yep.
So it's just like, I feel like with Peyton Kettles, I feel like he's not really that Chris Tanev type, but that's only because I don't really know what type he is. Like he just kind of is big right now. And who knows what he'll be in 10 years. Like if you want to draft a guy like that, 25th overall and you're Toronto, sure. And you give him to your development staff and see how he is in 5 years, 6 years. I just would hedge my bets and probably go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Nico Hischier's start to the season? I mean, he's been extremely good.
Always been awesome. He leads the league in goals, I think.
Yeah. Nico Hischier is sitting at
10, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, 10 goals and 5 assists in 13 games.
He rocks, man. Like, I think Nico Hischier is not going to get, well, he's getting the praise now, but you know, when you have a guy as skilled and as flashy as Jack Hughes in front of him, that's who the attention goes to, right? The shiny new thing. And Jack Hughes is still got that shine. And he's one of the best players in the league. But Nico Hischier is a 1C on other teams. He is.
For sure.
And like he's just ridiculously good. He's one of those more solid two-way guys, like in the mold of like a Barkov kind of vibe. Like that's more what I think of him. In terms of just go ahead.
I was gonna say his shooting percentage is like 20-something%.
It is, it's crazy. It'll come down.
But I mean, he is an extremely good player. Like, you want to talk about just PTFG guys, he's a really good example of an excellent version of that. He just goes out at both ends of the ice, drives really good results, just plays really rock solid hockey. And yeah, like he's just a really good player, and he's being really, really good. I don't know how else to put it.
And
like
that's the kind of guy that, like for me, I think Macklin that's the level that I would think that Celebrini might get to. Like that's the kind of player I look at and go, okay, well, this is another first overall pick who is similar.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharks fans, we're pumping you up a bit today.
Yeah.
Drop a like on the stream for the hype train.
Yeah, exactly. How was Mayu defensively in his draft here?
Bad.
He struggled heavily with defending at all in his short stint. Probably not completely ready yet, though. He was awful. He's always been, again, this is the whole thing.
He's never been good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Logan Mailloux defensively, this is why it makes me crazy that time after time after time after time, you see clips that people post online that they use for hype about a player because Logan Mailloux shoots really hard from the point. It's like, oh my God, look at how much points he's scoring. He's going to be this. He's going to be that.
Look at this one skill they have that I will show you on repeat.
It's like but think about what you're looking for in a player. He's a defenseman, right? Like scoring points is great. Obviously you want defensemen who can score. It's very nice. But if you can't defend, it makes it a lot harder to play you in the NHL. Like your job is on the line if you're an NHL head coach. And if you have a young kid who may score a goal here and there, but is just not the mobile, anticipatory, physical defenseman. Again, Mailloux is another guy who also leads with physicality. Like from what I remember in his draft year, the team he played on was terrible. They were awful, awful, awful. But he wasn't really like, it was a good example of like his defensive results were really bad. But sometimes you can go, yeah, but it's not really his fault. Like there's other players on the ice and blah, blah, blah. But like, no, if you were attacking him with any kind of speed along the wide part of the ice, he would try to cross-check you as you blew right by him. And like that would happen many, many times.
I think Tony gave us a good story yesterday I don't remember exactly who was there, but Tony said he saw Logan Mailloux like at this like little, what was it, like a little just skate?
Yeah, it was like some community thing.
Yeah, and he said that he got beat by everybody. Like, just everybody. Didn't matter who it was.
Yeah, and I think that with him, he's not a bad player. It's just that the ups and downs of his game, like when you point them out at the time and he ends up a first round draft pick and people come at you for years about it, it's like, yeah, but I'm not blind. Like there are things there, like, but it's when you're critical about a player, it's like taken as like, oh, like I don't know how to put it, but it's very weird. And with Mailloux, it was always like,
you must hate them because you're critical.
It's like yes, but yes, I know. Like it's like people talking about a guy like Carter Yakimchuk, like scoring that 3-on-3 goal. It's like, yeah, I know Carter Yakimchuk, if he has the puck on his stick and a lot of space to play with, can be a dangerous player. That's why you draft a guy like that. But that's not that's not the situation he's playing every minute of the game.
No, he's not going to be in a 3-on-3 with a bad line change, letting him just walk the puck in and do whatever he wants.
And being good shooting from the point, like, okay, but there, like when push comes to shove in your own end, that's what matters for a lot of defensemen. And a guy like Mailloux, it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to get a guy who can score, but yeah, his defensive side of the game for me never was really there. And people were telling me, oh, but the physical intent is there. He's got the size. He's fast, so he'll figure it out. And it's like, okay, fair enough, I guess. But guys like, it's a good example of like everyone else in the draft also gets better. Like just because you think that one player is going to develop a certain way, that they're like, well, they'll overcome other players. It's like, well, but what about those other players, right? Like, what about them developing? Mm-hmm. Where's their game going to go? And overall, in my experience, players when they are draft eligible to when they're 24, 25 are generally the same brand of player, generally. And it's at that point then that they kind of go, okay, if I want to stay in the NHL, I need to apply myself in this way and this way and this way. And that's where a good coach can step in and go, look, you were the guy that scored 120 points in your +2 season in Quebec. Let's try to find a way where you can be our third line center, because clearly you can play. It's not like you're a washout or anything, but we got to figure out a way where you can be deployed and used in a way that makes you effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with a guy like Mailloux, that's a lot more difficult to do, because like if he was a guy who was always offensive and scored a bunch of points, but still had pretty good defensive results and just struggled because maybe his point shot wasn't great or he couldn't do the Lane Hudson thing from the offensive blue line, you could still get a good defensive player out of him and go, look, we're going to shelter your minutes, play more of a defensive role, and see how you do there. And if it works, then they regress to a pretty decent role on an NHL team every night. But anyway, that's enough about Mailloux, I think. Why is Martone a slow skater? I don't know, because he's not fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's a heavy kid. He's big and heavy. He's more of a physical brand anyway. Like that, the speed of his game is not really the name of the game. And every player in the NHL, I don't think that speed should be the name of their game.
Unless you want to play for me. That's the only...
Right. Yeah, AJ hates Porter Martone.
I don't hate Porter Martone. I like Porter Martone.
Hates him as a person.
No. Hey, now, I'm going to have to... there's a chance I hop on an interview with him. I don't want you...
I know.
Don't want you putting that out in the world.
It's notorious.
I love my Italian boy, okay?
We love Porter Martone. He's our boy.
At least I assume he's Italian. Martone's got to be, like...
Probably. Something like that. We can ask him.
We can ask.
But
I'm going to ask him a question about what's his favorite meal his Nunna makes. Like, I think I need to do that.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's because that's not really his brand. And he isn't slow necessarily. I think he just doesn't, like, his strides are powerful, but not frequent, if that makes sense. So I think he just has a good feel for the game and he's physical enough to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. I don't know.
I would definitely like to see him improve that way.
Yes, very sure. Very true.
I think it would help him tremendously if he could get quicker. Like, I think that's going to be the biggest thing for Porter, where if he can get some explosiveness and have a good step. Like, even if he's not the fastest guy in the world, but is able to just explode and get going to his top speed quicker than everybody else, or more quickly rather, that should help him.
Yeah, I agree. Have you seen Stiga this year? I've drafted him in my fantasy league because of you. Well, I'm very honored. I have. I love him. I think he's been great with Boston College. He's playing with James Haggins like he should be. He's scoring a little bit more in his last couple of games than his first couple, which, whatever. It's early in the year, so who cares? But he's been really, really good, fast and aggressive and causing turnovers. Like, he's a guy that I love. People were telling me like he's not going to work out in the NHL as he is and blah, blah, blah. And I'm
not
going,
true.
I just disagree.
Not true.
Like, I just disagree because he's doing it against college guys already when he was 17. He's doing it against college guys now.
You know what he's like? He's like a Nick Robertson type player. Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would say,
and it's working.
And I'd say he's more of a playmaker guy.
Yep.
He's like Nick Robertson if he were a playmaker. But yeah, like that's the kind of vibe you're getting from him. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. And I think it could work. If I see a kid working as hard as he does, I will not get in his way. Like, if I see a kid who's trying as hard to move the needle in the right direction like him, it's like the same thing with Logan Stankoven. It's like, I don't care how big you are, but if you keep playing like that, you're going to play. Like, if you keep playing that way, any coach worth their salt is going to go, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should play this guy and see what he can do. And I feel like he'll be one of those guys. I just can't see how he wouldn't be because of, like, I'm looking at the NCAA's leading scorers right now, like a Jeremy Wilmer, for example. Really small player as well. He's even smaller than Teddy Stiga, but never, ever had the intensity and competitiveness and just ruthless offensive pressure that Teddy Stiga has. And Wilmer was a guy who a lot of people were talking about as a super skilled swing for the fences type guy, but I just never saw that intensity level and that competitiveness where I'm like, yeah, he's 5'7" or so, but I would play him. It's like, I just didn't see that.
Right.
So with Stiga, I've liked him a lot from what I've seen this year. I feel like you give him 2 years in college or something and let him just play a bigger and bigger role and get the puck more and more and more as time goes on. And who knows, he could be a really good player.
I'll touch on the fantasy side of things quickly. I think it's a good long-term hold for Stiga. Like, it's a good bet because when you think about the national forward group, like they have Ryan O'Reilly there right now, right? Like they have Philip Forsberg there. Like, it's an older group currently. And as this group ages out, I think Teddy Stiga will get a good role in Nashville. I think he will get a top power play spot as time goes on, because who else are they going to have in that system?
Yeah.
Like, I know Joaquin Kamel's there, but I like Teddy Stiga more.
Yep.
And I think just the way he plays, he's going to get ample opportunities, and I think it's a smart pickup. Smart draft pick, that is.
Thoughts on Seneca's D+1? He's been very, very good. Oshawa is a wagon. They are a very, very good team, top to bottom. I've seen him like one game of him since he went back, and he's Beckett Seneca still, right? Like, fast in a straight line, super talented, skilled player who can score goals. Like, he's gonna score a ton of points in junior. He's gonna, like, no matter what. So yeah, he's doing really well. I don't know what BO Zombie. I don't know
Black
what BO
Ops Zombies reference.
Oh, Black Ops Zombies. Honestly, I never played Black Ops Zombies. I played the original Black Ops and the second Black Ops, and I don't think they had zombies.
Yes, they did.
Oh well, I didn't play that. So
yes, they did. Those are the games that I played zombies on, and
I did like Black Ops. Though.
I have a funny.
I'm
going to give a funny story about Black Ops, about playing Black Ops 2 Zombies quickly. So if you will all humor me as I spill some family story, because I think it's very funny. I was playing with my cousin, or my two cousins and my brother on Xbox 360. We were playing Black Ops 2 Zombies, and I think we're on a pretty high up round, and this was quite a while ago. And my younger cousin, who's like, I think he was like 8 at the time. I don't know why he was playing, but he's playing Black Ops 2 Zombies. Accidentally hits, and we're playing on split screen. So my brother's playing with me on a split screen at our house, and he and my two cousins, Noah and Eric, they're playing on a split screen at their house. My cousin Eric hits the middle button on the Xbox controller. And when you do that, it opens a pop-up menu that like freezes the frame for both screens. So as we're in the middle of this super intense zombies round, both my cousins go down because of that. my cousin Noah starts screaming at Eric, and he's like, "Why'd you do that?" Because he's got like this super high pitched voice, and we end up losing on the round. And I hear like a bang in coming from my headset, and it was Noah like throwing his controller. Nice. And he says to his brother, "I don't care about your life anymore."
Jeez.
So that's one of the funniest things I think I ever experienced. And my favorite Black Ops 2 Zombies moment was just dying on like a super high up round, my little cousin being so mad at his little brother, and just like smashing a controller and telling his brother he doesn't care about his life anymore. I think that's one of the greatest stories I have. But well, thank you for humoring me.
Yeah. I don't have stories like that from my video gaming days. I still game, but not Black Ops.
Was that at least a fun story? Like, I don't want to.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to go on a side if people think it's stupid, but I think it's a funny one.
Children being children is always entertaining. You know, they're just being, just screaming at each other. Yeah, cool.
And my little cousin, who I was talking about, is actually slightly older than Landon DuPont, which is what's hilarious.
Boy.
Yep.
Okay. Same person mentioned that they've learned English listening to me. Well, that's good.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm a decent English speaker. I was raised by an English teacher, so I've got to have at least a decent grasp of the English language.
Well, we have strong vernaculars here. Come on.
We do. We have a large lexicon.
Exactly.
Our lexicon is large.
Now we're going to start speaking in more. What's a good word for this?
Eloquent?
Yes, we're going to speak more eloquently, and we're going to speak up so you can't understand us anymore. No, I'm kidding.
Here's a very interesting experiment that my mom used to tell me to do when I was younger. There's like internet memes about it now, but whenever you are speaking and you preface an adjective with the word very, there is generally a word for that. For like very excited or very happy, very whatever, there is a word for those words, and it's always good to skip the very and find the word that gets to what you're trying to get at.
Very often you want to avoid using that word.
And you just said very often.
Well, I said it on purpose.
Right? Like
purposefully.
Yes. But anyway, you see the point. But just a little side note, if you're learning how to speak a little better,
I think we're a pretty good resource that way, just because
better than many.
Well, we're using a lot of different words, right? And because of that,
I like words. Good words, big words.
Yes, I like providing an extensive range of words.
Yes.
So there we go.
I'm distracted. I'm distracted by this thing. Okay.
But thank you. That's awesome. That's a really cool thing to hear that they're learning from us.
We can continue. Yeah, I have wanted to learn more languages. Not that I know more, but it's something that as an adult I do want to try to do. Anyway, whatever. Thoughts on Logan Hensler? He's fine. He's been okay. Wisconsin is painful to watch sometimes, but he's been fine. Like, I see him as just a fine all-around defenseman. I don't have him super high on my list. We'll see where things go from here, but I watched a game of his and he just seemed to be fine. I don't know how else to put it. Do you think the Hobie Baker winning from Fantilli Celebrini will hurt Haggins with the expectations? No, I don't think so. I think that if you're James Haggins or if I'm his agent, I'm just like, don't worry about that. If you win it, it's great.
He could. He very well could.
He could, but the competition is pretty tough already this season. Like, we'll see what happens, but like, but like Gabe Perreault is still there.
Oh, okay. Ryan Leonard, I would imagine,
Matthew
still there.
Wood is having a really good season. Ryan Leonard is still there. Cole is having a really good year.
Come on.
Maybe, but I think he's like a point a game.
Yeah, but he's Oliver Moore. He's my boy. I gotta put him out there 20 times until I will it into existence.
He is sitting at 5 points in 6 games, so he sucks. Therefore, no winning for him.
Never listen to me. I'm the worst at this.
Yep, the worst.
Points is all that matters.
In short, the answer is no, in my opinion. Someone mentions Georges St. Pierre as maybe the GOAT Canadian athlete in terms of dominance, which I think is also fair. He was ridiculous, but I still feel like people like Sinclair and Nash might, because Nash won like multiple MVPs won a bunch of hardware in the NBA, which is not the easiest.
I think it's got to go to Nash if it's non-hockey. Just
Nash or Sinclair probably
one
are
of
the
two.
winners.
Or we can just have the men's category and then have the women's category, and they can both win.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, they're both great to me. Terry Fox too. Andre DeGrasse is in there too. I feel like that's recency bias, but like he's won medals at the Olympics, which is great.
It is great.
But yeah, I don't know about GOAT, right? Like greatest of all time. Like Donovan Bailey set a world record, right? In an era where everybody but him was doing steroids. So that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Any fun or hot takes about fan favorite players or teams?
Well, I've thrown out my Tage Thompson take.
Last year, we were pretty anti-Canucks, and people didn't like that. And now they're kind of having a tough season so far-ish.
Did they lose last night to New Jersey?
Yes, they got pumped. I think they got destroyed. Wasn't it 6-0?
Oh.
I think it was like really lopsided.
Yeah.
It was 6-0.
Okay.
They lost 6-0.
Hey, but their defensive analytics look great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Rick Tocchet, baby.
I don't think they're that bad, but
they're not.
Again, last year they outperformed, and this year they're probably underperforming.
But there's a big reason to it.
There's
a big reason to it. And I know their defensive numbers look good, but you cannot understate what not having Thatcher Demko has meant.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And with Elias Pettersson having a bit of a slower start, it's a bit problematic. Like, I love Elias Pettersson, but he has his in and out phases, right? And he's an exceptionally talented hockey player, and I think he'll re-find his form, but there are ups and there are downs, and he's in a bit of a downswing at the moment. So hoping that he can figure it out, because when he's on, oh my goodness, that guy is ridiculous. But for now, William Nylander is the best Swede in the league. You can't fight me on that. Number one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hot takes about teams this year?
It's too early.
I think it's too early.
Maybe Boston sucks. Maybe that's my hot take. But not even. They're just mid.
They're not in a playoff spot. They're under a point a game.
They're just a mid team.
They're tied with Detroit and Boston and Buffalo. I don't know. That division is all tied pretty much. Yeah. Toronto, Ottawa, Buffalo, Boston, Detroit, and Montreal, all within 2 points of each other.
Yeah, but it's early, and
I know it's still very early. Like 20 games. 20 games is where you kind of get a gauge on who's got what.
Toronto, Florida, and Tampa are going to run away with the division, I think, as time goes on. And then I think it's really down to Ottawa and Boston to push for that last spot.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could see it being Ottawa. I could 100% see it being Ottawa. At some level, I kind of like it to be Ottawa.
Yeah, I would love Ottawa in the playoffs. They'd be so annoying. Oh, it'd be great.
It'd just be nice to not have the same 4 teams from the Atlantic be in, and you know, the Leafs not coming out as a result. So
right,
that's the only contingency. I will keep the same 4 if it means that my team makes it. But
correct. Will Smith doesn't have a point yet. Any other player you can think is NHL in the NHL but not NHL ready? That's a very good question. Let me pull up the NHL stats for who's a rookie.
And with Will Smith, it kind of doesn't matter. I think this is just where you let him go.
Yeah. Like Slafkovsky had a really rough start to his career, and he's turned out to be okay.
Yeah. And apparently me calling Boston mid is generous. You know what they could use?
Yeah, someone, I don't know, you tell me.
I'm not going to say it because I think it can go unsaid at this point. Figure it out, people. I think you all know who I'm referring to. Will may have made a video on him in 2021 and called him the Swedish Roadrunner.
I did, and he is. Any other player who you think is in the NHL but not ready yet? I mean, I think things got really out of hand on Josh Doan really fast, and I know they sent him down. But that's one that I'd probably throw out there. Zach Bolduc is another one that I just think...
Is he still there?
He's played 8 games. He's been there a long time. But
I see him live?
I don't know. But he had an awful giveaway the other night. Just passed it directly to someone else in front of the net that was not on his team. That's just kind of the exclamation point. But he's one that I don't whenever I've seen St. Louis, I'm not, and I've never been a huge fan of Zach Bolduc, but he's not one I thought was NHL ready right now. I
actually need to go look because he might have played it in the game that I was at. But if he did, that just goes to show you I did not notice him at all. So I want to find this. I'm curious now.
He did not play in that game.
Okay, he didn't play.
Yeah. He has not played against Toronto. Anyway, Carson Raycop comparable. I mean, I'd probably put like a Drake Batherson out there kind of guy. Just really silky, smooth, skilled guy who can produce pretty well. Really fun player to watch. Not amazing, but just a really fun, skilled guy who can protect the puck pretty well and make a play. Like, yeah, I see a guy like maybe Drake Batherson there. Sure.
Oh, I've got a hot take. Just for now, though.
Yes.
Should Kaprizov be in the Hart conversation? I mean, I guess it's not a hot take, but could he win the Hart? Because he's been really good. He's been awesome.
It's entirely possible.
I just think it's kind of hot in the sense that, people don't talk about Minnesota.
Kucherov's also looked really good this year so far, but yeah, Kaprizov, I would say.
It's kind of funny.
Could be in there.
Now he doesn't have to pass to Stamkos, he can shoot more.
It's true.
Like,
yeah, he's almost a goal a game.
Here's a hot take. Steven Stamkos, power play merchant at this point in his career and has been for the past 3 years.
Agreed. Agreed.
I like him, but is Jake Gensel like a, I don't want to say tenfold upgrade because that's not fair, but is he a substantial upgrade? Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
And like I said, I thought Tampa was going to be really good this year, and they're trending that way. So, little pat on the back. I don't know if you can hear me doing it. Probably not because of noise cancellation. But
yep. Brant Clark, is this offensive explosion expected or surprising given how well the start of the season has gone?
He's on top power play. He's on top power play.
Yeah, he's on the top power play. I always expected him to be a good point producer in the NHL. The skill level and creativity is enough. Again, it's like not as drastic as Logan Mailloux, but the defensive side of the game is where I was always a little skittish on Brant Clark. But the offense, if it outweighs the defense, then you're laughing. Then great.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I'm happy about it because he's a fun player to watch. At the very least, that assist he had the other night or last night was it an assist or goal? Either way, the spinorama he pulled
last night.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
But it's so much of our thoughts on these players, like how we perceive them when we don't watch them necessarily, like during the draft years and watch their development.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their opportunity is like their performance is based on their opportunity a lot of the times. Like they can earn more opportunity with good performances. But when you're given the keys to the top power play of the LA Kings and you get to play with their top guys like Anze Kopitar, Kevin Fiala, like that's a huge boost. Like, and as much as Drew Doughty being out could be hurting the team quite a bit, like Brant Clark can fill the offense that Drew Doughty provided and maybe even do it better. So maybe he ends up sticking in that role potentially when Drew Doughty comes back. But like so much of how we view these players is tied to their deployment. Like Owen Power came into the NHL 1 year after he was drafted first overall. And like, do we talk about Owen Power anymore that much? Not really. Because is he really impressing us? Like he's been fine, but he still has those moments where he just gives the puck away and struggles to break it out. So
that's 5-game point streak going Power to you.
Well, see, sometimes you just don't know. But
well, yeah, I mean, the next question touches on this with Byfield. I mean, I'm not worried about Quinton Byfield. I never will be worried about him. Like he's not a guy who I ever really expected to be like a 100-point guy, but similar to like Alex Tuch, where it's like you can't really live without a guy like that. Byfield, I mean, it's been 10 games for him, 11 games. Like you give it 20. Right? Like if he has 5 points after 20 games, then maybe, something might be a little bit the problem, but he's got points in 2, I think, of his last 3 or 4 games. And, we'll see where it goes from here.
There's
but
another thing with
it's
that
still
too.
very early.
There's another thing with that too. And like he was playing wing last year and they're trying to get him back playing center. So they have him on the third line right now with LaFerriere and Warren Fogle. I like Warren Fogle. I don't really have much of an opinion on Alex Laferriere, but I know in the past Will hasn't been his biggest fan by any means.
Whatever, like he's fine. I'm just surprised he's in the NHL doing what he's doing. It's just
but like
all right.
He's not on top power play. He's on their third line.
Yep.
They're playing him where they're playing him. And right now Alex Turcotte's on the first line, which is pretty cool. But still, like it's all about where you are in the lineup, like what your opportunity is at some level. And like I said earlier, you can earn more opportunity by playing better. But sometimes, as Will has said in the past, it's like with a guy like Liljgren, because he's in our title and thumbnail, a lot of coaches will have a bias to not play him because he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not the most physical. He's not going to do the most eye-catching things. But what he provides is something really steady and stable, and sometimes it goes unnoticed and unappreciated.
Yeah. All right. I think we got to race through these because we're kind of running over time almost.
We are.
But yeah. The other English teacher was Shannon Sharp. Oh, God bless you. Holy smokes. That guy's got a heck of an accent. I love it. I love listening to Shannon Sharp talk, but that's a challenge. So for someone learning English, so kudos to you.
That's cool though. It's awesome. Shannon Sharp.
I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
Let's have him on the show. Let's talk with Shannon Sharp.
He won't come on. We're too small.
Yeah, not yet.
You got ghosted by Mike Johnson, right? Like Shannon Sharp's not coming on.
Well, he never responded, but I'm going to keep bugging him. Okay, I'm late to the party, but what are your thoughts on the Liljgren trade? Oh, we talked about that ad nauseum earlier in the show.
It sucks. I want him back.
It sucks for Toronto. Toronto's probably going to miss him, and San Jose got a good player. I think it's so funny to me. Like, how many years were we sitting around in Toronto going, man, they could use a right shot defenseman. Man, they could use a right-handed defenseman. They're so hard to find. They're so hard to find. Oh my God, they're so hard to find. And then they have one who's like on paper quite effective. Then they bench him and trade him for mid-round picks and a guy. And San Jose is just like, okay, we got a right-handed defenseman that everyone thinks is so hard to acquire. We gave up nothing, basically. So, all right. Like, it's just so strange to me. Like, it's so like not seeing the forest through the trees, in my opinion, but whatever. Whatever. It's good for San Jose. Cool. I guess the good thing for me is that it adds another pick to team scouching in this draft class, which is depending on good or bad. I don't know. We'll see. Will Smith is just a slower Trevor Zegras per sources. Thanks, J Mulk. That's a good input.
Love the J Mulk input.
I don't think you're entirely wrong. I don't think you're entirely wrong
either
at all. But that's kind of why Will Smith to me might take a little longer to come along. I don't even know how is Trevor Zegras doing this year.
I think he's got top power play, which matters. Like, I know it's funny because we talk about you like to
2 points.
Oh no.
Oh boy. 2 points in his first 3 games and pointless since.
And he's playing third line center with Cutter Gauthier and Alex Killorn, which doesn't sound like a bad line, honestly.
No, it does not.
It doesn't sound like a bad line, but like third line minutes. And no top power play. No top power play.
Yeah, you still probably want a little more than that. He's playing like 18 minutes a night too. Anyway,
I think it's time for him to move on.
Yeah. Someone else give him a shot. Anyway,
it's going to be Montreal, isn't it?
Thoughts on trading Mitch Marner? I wouldn't do it.
No,
you're not going to win that.
No,
you're not going to win the trade.
No.
Yeah, you're going to You're going to get butt in return, and it's going to be sad.
Don't do it. Here's what I think. You know what would be a great idea? As much as it kind of pains me to say it, because I like him a bit, just don't re-sign John Tavares.
Right.
Just don't re-sign him. Allocate that money to a legit 2C at this point.
Well, I mean, he's been taking a step back.
I mean, he's been better recently, but that's because he's been playing with William Nylander, the guy driving that bus. So find somebody else who is going to command, like, even if they command more, I don't care. But I want somebody with pace playing on my second line as my center. Like, I want something different now. I like John Tavares. Super smart, really good player. But don't pay him if it's going to be an average NHL contract. This team needs something different at this point, and he's not the answer. And unfortunately, he kind of never was. There was one top 10 center season of him, and then he was never the same player after that one top 10 center season.
Yep.
So, I don't know, like, find the Chandler Stevenson that leaves this year, you know, because Chandler Stevenson's awesome, and now he's in Seattle, and I think he's doing pretty well, but I'm just a big fan of Chandler Stevenson.
Yeah, totally. Why do teams rush prospects to the NHL? Because they think they can play right away. I don't know. Like,
and because they need to make the playoffs to sell tickets. Like,
or they just need a guy to fill a role. And sometimes it's the young guy who makes the job, and the NHL's a lot.
It's like,
I don't know.
Our job is depending on your success. We need you to succeed. You got to come along. There is some of that.
I mean, I don't think it happens that often anymore. Like,
no.
Teams that rush guys now to the NHL do it with a purpose. Like, it's not like they're saying, oh, Yuri Slafkovsky was our first overall pick, we have to put him in the NHL right away. And then they're like, when he's struggling, they're like, why are you not doing so well? I don't think that's what's happening at all. It's probably the opposite. They're doing it so that he can learn and get the reps, and, and it's the expectation is, it's about, like, you're basically asking, like, why do teams have bad expectations of their players or set the bar too high, which I just don't think happens all that often anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's like the opposite now. Like, a lot of young players seem to have a hard time getting in the league and staying there when they probably deserve to be there the same, if not more, than guys playing on the third or fourth line on their teams. But then they get these arbitrary reasons to be like, well, you're not this enough, or you're not this enough, and so you're not enough of a veteran so that we can't play you ahead of this guy, blah, blah, blah. I think that is more of the thing, and you end up with players who get frustrated or disgruntled or whatever, and they're just like, I don't want to, like, what are we doing here, right? Like, I don't know. It's about management. It's about how you talk to these people. Smith needs to learn how to play outside of a literally perfect system like he did in the US. He needs space. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been saying about Smith, is like, he's a guy who I always felt was going to score a lot of points. He has all the skill in the world. He has all the creativity in the world. Small area playmaking for sure was there too, but he needs a supporting group around him to help him out. Like, and he's not going to be this defensive stalwart at all.
No.
Right? Like, you're drafting him to produce, and you're drafting him to score points. So that's kind of why I had him. I had a guy like Oliver Moore higher, because I think at the end of the day, Oliver Moore is going to bring a lot of impact in the NHL everywhere on the ice, right? Even though Will Smith might score more points, especially if you put him on a power play, I feel like at the end of the day, you're going to find it as a different type of player more valuable. Granted, I don't think in retrospect I would have put Will Smith much lower than I had him. But there were concerns about him at the time, and those concerns are still kind of there, and we'll see if he can work through it. But yeah, I'm surprised he's in the NHL so fast. But if San Jose's expectations are proper, they give him time and figure it out.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal either way. Like, they're building, like, I think it's good that they're bringing him in at some level, because there is no expectation on this team. This is purely, all right, we've drafted you, we've invested this capital. We want you to learn in the NHL, because we're not a team that has really any expectations to win at this point. So any wins you can get us, great, but learn. This is your year to learn and see where your shortcomings are compared to the highest level of competition. I think it's a great spot for him to be, just because he's going to get that experience, and he's going to be like, okay, so I'm not good enough yet in this area, this area, and this area. So here's where I can improve. At least that's what you would hope would come out of this whole experience for him. And if he's a kid that's willing to learn, then he'll be able to do that. So I like this move, because you're like, all right, kid, why not? Let's give you a shot and just keep working at it.
Yeah. On that note, I think we're going to call it a day. That's all the questions for now. And again, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Obviously, not every show is going to be like this. We're just having some fun for spooky season. And
Will was
I'm
just
take
lazy
off
and didn't want to do the two things separately. That's the truth.
I just don't have the time. I'm a busy man. I'm a busy man. So no.
So you carved a pumpkin on stream. 2 pumpkins.
Get 2 birds stoned at once, right?
Yes, I know that reference.
Yes. But anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, good discussions and good time carving pumpkins. Again, we've got, I mean, you can't see it, but we've got Trepanation Victim and Worms and Slugs, or Slug and Worms, I should say.
Right.
Coming to eBay tomorrow morning, probably. And if you want to bid on used pumpkins,
don't
then
actually look at eBay. It won't be there.
Yeah, no, don't do that. That's not happening. We're gonna toss them in the garbage. But anyway, thanks for joining us. This was a lot of fun, and we'll see you Monday night for a special appearance from Mr. Tony Ferrari.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, Correct? Tony will be there. We're gonna actually show an exclusive clip from Game Tape.
Ah, yes.
That show is gonna be a lot about. I'm not gonna deny it. We are stupidly excited for this. Me so.
Yes.
Me more than anybody, I think.
Misa, me more, Misa.
Look, okay, I'm just excited. The words are exploding out of my mouth. All right, I just can't stop it. It's all a word salad. It's all tossed.
Correct.
But
he's that excited.
I'm gushing with excitement. So what? That's not
gushing with excitement. I love it.
Well, now you making it sound weird. Thanks, man.
Yes, I did.
All right,
anyway,
I'm just gonna say go Leafs go and end the stream now. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Goodbye.